now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's radio show promotional video that
How exactly sure are you, darling?
I wasn't sure which one are we shooting right now. Are we shooting the video for the radio shows, or are we doing the weekly energy report?
Well, we're going to cut you some slack because for all of you out there that don't know it, Janet has been busting her ass doing an educational series right now, which you can all purchase at some point on, I think you said Udemy? What was it again?
Udemy.
So Janet is doing some exciting stuff, especially when it comes to the human design, which is one of her many talents. And I know that this is a promo for our astrological and tarot, but it's all fucking bundled into one. So we look forward to that. Do you think the launch is going to be sometime in June or July or something like that?
Well, let's hope it doesn't go as far as July. I'm hoping that in May, actually, I can get this done. We're in the editing part, and as part of the editing, another lesson for Janet, right, is part of the editing is I have to rewatch these videos, and I have to pick out the time stamp where I want the edit to take place. The problem is then I am sitting here rewatching these videos going, that's not what you should have said. Your hair doesn't look good. Oh my God, did you really say that? And can you say any more than, oh my God. So I'm tearing myself apart.
I listened to one of the radio shows and it was like I was stuck.
I mean, I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. I can't put this out.
Well, for all of you out there, she's hypercritical. She's fantastic on video. I wouldn't bullshit you because you all know me by now, my personality. I'm the one that tells her, like, what the fuck are you wearing? Like, Jesus Christ, fix that makeup. But anywho, do you want to go first or should I go first? Since I know we're close on time today.
You're going to go first, but I want to say something really quickly to all the people who watch our radio promos, and that is, yesterday during the show, we discovered that when people go to our show page to watch the show live, it says up at the top that it was done yesterday. And that is a problem that is going on within Blog Talk that I discussed with them yesterday after the show, because several listeners yesterday pointed it out that not only our show, but your show and everybody else's shows on Blog Talk are displaying this wrong information. So if you're coming to the show to watch it live to get a reading, perhaps, either tarot or astrology, and you're seeing that, of course, you're not coming on air. And Jason and I have been sitting here wondering, like, where the hell did all the people go?
I know, we've been doing some really good, not quality, but with the content shows, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, and the thing is, people are listening because, people can tune in later and they can listen, but it was the number of people calling in for readings that went down, and that was very surprising. So we've discovered the problem. Hopefully it gets fixed, but just so you know, if you are tuning in live on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific or 7 p.m. East Coast time to Jason's Titillating Tarot with Jason Livanis, and it says yesterday, don't believe it. Go ahead and click in and be ready to listen to the show live. Likewise, on Thursdays at 4 p.m., 7 p.m. East Coast, if you're tuning into Living Astrology and it says yesterday, ignore it. It's not telling you the truth. It is live. The show is still live, and you can call in for readings, both for tarot readings with Jason and astrology readings with me. So Jason, having said all that, you had a pretty awesome show this last week where we got to share stories from beyond.
Yes.
And apparently we are not done yet with the death card. Tell us what's coming up this week.
I will, but I have a caveat. As all of you might know, I helped to co-produce Janet's show. And so I want to publicly apologize to all of you out there, but to let you understand that I have a certain carte blanche as a producer and an outside entity from Janet to sort of hasten things along if I know that I have a lot of people in the queue. So for all of you out there, if I come on in my bad cop, brusque, obnoxious New York City, hey Janet, we have a lot of people in the fucking queue, let's move this sadly depressed suicidal person off the air, or whatever it might be at that moment, it's because I make the judgment call, and I don't always make maybe the most soft touch judgment call. So for all of you out there that are contacting Janet and bitching about me, please contact me instead. I would love to let you know that when we're doing this show, it's a crapshoot sometimes, and it's a judgment call. And I had a lot of people in the queue. So I apologize if that person felt brusquely put off, but I felt that she got what she was going to get. That being said, if it came off too brusque to any of you, listen to my show and then tell me about brusque.
You know, the really good news is we're people, right? And we do make mistakes, and yeah, we don't always read each other's minds really easy in the moment. So
imagine that, psychics that don't read each other's minds. But anywho.
So back to you.
All right. So we've been working on the death card. The card number 13, my personal birth date, death and rebirth, and all of that fun stuff. And it is, like I said, wow, what a morbid thing to say, but I'll say it. It is a subject that is close to me. When Janet did my Mayan spirit animal thingamabobber, she looks at it and she's like, oh, your guide spirit is death and transformation.
I remember that day.
What? She's like, well, it's symbolized by the owl. And I was like, that's freaky, because the very first words I ever said as a child was, whoo, whoo. I loved owls. My mother had a whole owl. Isn't that weird? My mother had a whole owl motif. Anyway, so death and transformation have been heavy hitters in my life with the amount of loss that I had, especially during the 80s when the epidemic was happening. I know that I do a lot of work when I'm sleeping, helping people cross over. I know that sounds odd, but whatever to everyone. First show that I had on the death card was my friend Rita Morgan, who came in. She's a licensed psychotherapist, deals with loss and grieving. And we talked about the mechanisms in the first show. The second show, I gave you some information and how badly represented this card is.
Yeah.
People see, they're like, death. Not so much death, more about rebirth, giving up the ego. And because of Janet, that would be her, interplanetary Janet. Janet has a friend by the name of Claudia Carrabba, and she is a licensed hypnotherapist. I could sit here and tell you all of her credits, but it looks like this lady, Claudia, is a specialist, and she is a specialist in a way that really makes my nipples hard. Now, why? I grew to find out when she called into Janet's show that she is a protege and has worked with one of the people whose books I always recommend. And you know, we have to do that on I have to remember to do that on the website, and maybe, you know, on your website, a link. You know, books that we suggest, books that have
references,
books that have impressed our lives. And remind me to ask you about the Elizabeth Hayek, by the way, when we're off camera, Janet, about the next show for you, because I'm dying to know if you liked or didn't like what she had to say in Initiation. Anyway, I digress. This coming show is tune in, because it's not solidified yet. I'm in the process of emailing and talking with Claudia. I believe this coming May 3rd, Claudia will be coming on, and Claudia worked with Dr. Michael Newton, PhD, who wrote Journey of Souls. Read it, folks. Not going to go into it. Next one, Destiny of Souls. She hypnotizes people and regresses them and takes them to the time period between lives. Now, anybody who's out there who hasn't heard about this is probably going, oh? Wow. That was the first time I was stopped dead in my tracks. I thought, oh, yeah, there must be a time, lack of a better word, a period, an experience that happens between lives. It's fascinating work, Janet. I know that you know of it. Yep. It seems that when this guy went all over the world, he regressed people, and in every language, we all report the same thing. And it's not just a walk to the light, Carol Ann kind of a thing.
Don't go into the light.
So this coming week was going to either be Claudia, where I get to talk to somebody who has worked with this man whose book I idolize, and she's going to tell us about people's experiences between fucking lives. That's just, I mean, that's Monty Python, like head opening up, brains shooting out kind of stuff. And so if she's not able to commit to this coming week, then I'm going to finish up my content and do mini readings for free on the air about the death card, and then Claudia will come on the weekend after. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome. You know, for those of us, for those of you who know me from the PNW, Pacific Northwest, y'all might recognize the name Claudia Carrabba because she was very active in the Edgar Cayce Foundation. And she was also a massage therapist in the Anacortes area for years. And so some of you, she's well known in our area as a very wise woman, spiritual advisor, and body worker or energy worker. So you'll want to join in. I think we will keep updates this weekend and over the week. So on Facebook and LinkedIn to let people know. And at the very least, you can always go to blogtalkradio.com/Living Astrology. That is the radio show page. You can click the little follow button and they will keep you updated of the shows that we have scheduled as they come up. So that's probably the best way for us to keep in contact with you, to let you know whether it's this coming week or next week after that she's going to be on the show. Titillating Tarot, Jason, you are on Wednesdays.
Well, by Blog Talk, God only fucking knows what day I'm on. By the way, do we know when we're going to get resolution on that, or we don't know?
I don't know, because I heard from people in the background on yesterday's Living Astrology show that they had been complaining about this for weeks. So we'll see what happens. She told me on the customer service line last night that she was going to have to send it to the engineers to work on. So we shall see. So people just, do your own due diligence. The show's on at the 7 o'clock East Coast time, Wednesday for Jason, 7 o'clock East Coast time, Thursdays, Living Astrology. We are always on air, unless for some reason we are out of town, in which case you would know ahead of time. We would say right on there, this is a rerun show. So easy deal. Don't always pay attention to what you read. That's
Are we done with Ceres and Pluto for now?
We are done with Ceres and Pluto, and what an interesting duo they are. And I really had a lot of fun bringing that information out, because to me, every little thing was just like a revelation, an aha, like, oh my gosh, I have to check into this more and more. So now anybody who has readings with me is probably going to get a Ceres Pluto shakedown so that I can, test this out in real life and see, what's going on. But as it relates to my radio show next Thursday, which, believe it or not, is May 4th, my granddaughter's 14th birthday. Woohoo, Mackenzie, happy birthday.
Yay.
Not that she'll ever...
That's the beautiful one, right? I'm sure they're all beautiful, excuse me. The one has model looks.
Yes, she's my little mini me.
Oh.
Me, her, and my daughter, all three of us are like... Anyway. So next week, we are going to delve into the nodes of the moon. The North Node and the South Node, they comprise what we often hear in mythology as the dragon head and the dragon tail. And as it relates to what does it mean in my chart or my life, it is the North Node that represents your destiny or your life path trajectory, and the South Node that represents your karma or where you've been. And I often tell people that the South Node is like the cup of goodies that you brought with you into this lifetime, your gifts, your talents, your experiences, and you are, meant to pour those out into this lifetime in a new way, and that is represented in the North Node. However, these nodes transit as well as park themselves in your natal chart.
For this entire time that you've been giving me readings and I've been hearing about the North and South Node, they are functions of the moon?
They are functions of the moon.
All right, people out there who don't know their ass from their elbow like me, that are novice astrologists, the entire time, I just thought a node was some calculatory aspect that is indicative of the wheel itself, but not a planetary association. So now I know that the moon is related to these North and South nodes. And so what does that mean? It's node, because a node on a vocal cord is something bad.
No, in this case, it is giving us an idea of where, okay, so mechanically I'm going to have to get into this on the show so I can let people understand this. But essentially it's this, as the moon is transiting around, it wobbles, kind of has this up and down. So if you think of this circle being the equator of the Earth, the moon is crossing above the equator and below the equator. So in its moon cycle, the North Node becomes the furthest north that its shadow is cast on the planet, and the south node becomes the southernmost place that the shadow of the moon is cast. And this is a representative of sort of the energy of the evolution that we're moving into, as well as what are we bringing with us. So I'll go into that in more detail. I may even have to write an article and post it on Facebook so that you can actually see the graphic of representation of this energy. But I don't want to get bogged down into that so much, but the nodes are making a move as we move into, I even wrote down the date so I could tell everybody, May 9th. So just another week or so, they will be changing sign. They've been in Virgo and Pisces for the last 18 months. And during that time, we've been working with the idea of connection and bringing wholeness to ourselves and being healthy and all of those kinds of issues. We are now going to see those issues shift. And when they shift, they move into the Leo Aquarius parts of our charts. And that brings us the energy of following our hearts, manifesting from a place of joy and heart-centeredness, claiming your gifts and your talents in the way that it was meant for you to claim them and to share them.
Are those aspects of Aquarian or Leo?
Those are both, right? Aquarius energy is more about humanitarian aspects of that energy. So,
it's funny. The only thing I think of when it comes to Aquarius is bipolar. That's the extreme highs and the extreme lows, because they're in the last sign before ascension, Pisces. So they're the ones that are like dealing with the physical and and then all of a sudden you cross over. And I always think of them because every time I've dated an Aquarian, it's just like, oh my God, did you take your fucking meds? Like,
well, Aquarian energy is rather unique. It is hard to pin down to, a mold, because they defy that, right? They have their, that saying, marching to the beat of your own drummer. Well, that is, Aquarian energy in a nutshell. And so wherever we have Aquarius is where we, bring our particular genius to play, and where we might also be thought of as a little bit eccentric or a little quirky.
Well, I don't want to do the whole show with you here, because I now have like 4 new questions about this when they flip-flop node. So I'll ask you all that.
Write them down, so you don't forget them.
Everybody write your questions down or email them to Janet.
Right. So the most fascinating aspect of this nodal change, at least for me, and this is rather personal, is that my North Node is in Leo. And so very shortly, I have what would be termed a destiny return. So I want to talk about that with people, because a lot of people who have Leo as their North Node toward the very last end of Leo are going to be experiencing this once in a 20-year, 19.5 year cycle as a return, which opens up a new pathway of how are you going to express yourself in your destiny. And it'll be really interesting, because the eclipse that comes up August 21st this summer is at the same degree as my destiny. So I'm watching all of this energy very intently to see where is this going and what does this mean. But for all of you, everyone is going to be experiencing that energy. Every one of us had to go through this last year and a half of dealing with where we were disconnected with ourselves, or how we needed to bring more and more of our true and authentic self into the picture. So now we've done that. Hopefully you've done that work, right? Hopefully you've done the work to be getting yourself healthy in soul, body, mind, heart, all of that. So that now, as this shift takes place, you're ready to express yourself out there in what is meant to be your authentic way.
That's beautiful. What is the click-over date?
Click-over date, May 9th.
May 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful,
May 9th.
beautiful, beautiful.
Which happens to be the date that I had the first date with my husband.
Now, would you like to talk about it quickly here, since it's not going to be a subject of your show, but I'm sure your listeners want to hear about it. Do you want to do that now, or maybe on the Living Astrology video that we do, energy-wise? I understand we have a new moon in another sign coming up. That's important.
We just had the new moon, April 26th. The new moon was in the sign of Taurus, and both the sun and moon conjunct in Taurus, a manifesting moon, you might call it.
Yeah.
And manifesting, though, you know, I pointed this out on one of my pages the other day. One of my musings about the whole idea of manifesting is that given in that new moon is this concept of giving and receiving, right? And the idea of flow. And I wanted people to look at that because manifesting is a part of it. Yeah, Taurus energies really, I call them master manifestors. I told somebody that yesterday on the radio show when I was doing their reading, is that you get out there and manifest what it is you're here to do, because once they put their heart and soul into it, you can't stop them. They become a bullet train, right? They're just heading where they want to go. But beyond that, the energy in Taurus is often about lack and scarcity versus abundance and flow. So I thought it was very important to bring up this concept of giving and receiving as a part of the universal flow of energy on the planet. So I wanted people to get a deeper look at that. Now, the full moon coming up is, well, it'll be 2 weeks now, still before that. So we'll talk about that at a later time, but
Awesome.
It's going to be a doozy as well.
So for all of you that would like to know how the North and South Node play into your world, please email Janet with your information, which means your exact time of birth, your place of birth, and your date of birth to janet@living-astrology.com. And if you do that and call in, she'll have your shit ready to go. Famous last words.
Not only that, but that's a really good point, Jason, because the people who the people who call me or email me early will get copies of their chart so that they're looking at the same thing I'm looking at during the show. When they wait to the last minute to let me know, it's really hard for me to get that chart ready before the show.
For all of you that don't know, we put those people first in the queue because they've given us some effort.
Yes, exactly. So because I really like people to be able to visualize with me what it is that we're looking at. And the earlier in the day or the earlier in the week even that you let me know you want a reading on the radio show on Thursday, the easier it is for me to have the time to take and look at your chart, put that information in the chart, send it to you so that you have it to look at beforehand. So janet@living-astrology.com, and I will send you your copy of the chart for the show, and then you call in during the show and get your reading. So, but even if, see, that here's the thing, we don't know how many people ahead of time are going to do that. So still feel free to call into the show and give us your birth information during the show. And if we can fit you in, we will. So that's how that works. And let's see, is there anything else I'm missing here today, Jason? That
is it. We are good for this video. And yeah, I look forward to this coming week. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be. So, you know, stay tuned. I'll get those promos that are on Facebook and on LinkedIn. I'll get those out there. And hopefully up on my website, Titillating Tarot with JasonLivanis.com. You can get your free identifier card reading. And I think that wraps it up for us today.
It sure does. We'll see you guys next week when we talk about the following week's radio shows. Bye for now.